Hi, I'm Brian Silva, and I'm going to be working on the renovation. It's a real treat for me. I could have never imagined it. I got into design because my dad used to build golf courses, and I wanted to run heavy equipment like my dad did, but he really discouraged me from that. He saw me running into the back of the car with my bicycle and things like that, and he didn't think me on the seat of a piece of heavy equipment would be a good thing for general mankind. So I went to turf school, landscape architecture school, worked on golf courses in the summer. I did my graduate training in plant and soil sciences, agronomy, and then I taught school on the college level for 5 years at places that train golf course superintendents. I worked for the United States Golf Association in their turf advisory service for 2 years, and then 44 years ago, Jeffrey Cornish asked me to go into business with him. And it really fulfilled a lifelong ambition of mine. When I was a teenager, 13 or 14, somehow I decided I wanted to be a golf course architect, and to actually have it come true has been a great treat for me. And then it gets even better when I get to work at courses with a great history, like here at the Boca Raton. One of my greatest motivations for working at the Boca Raton was just its great vintage history. And its great vintage history gets all the better when you realize the two guys who had the greatest impact on the course were Donald Ross and William Flynn. Ross is an architect who truly needs no introduction. He and his staff did 400 golf courses back in the day when horsepower was horsepower, and you had to take a train from one site to the other. And we're really concentrating on specially constructing about 2.5 acres of the green surrounds so we can use them as close-cut chipping areas, the way they use the green surrounds at Pinehurst No. 2 in North Carolina and other Ross golf courses. But the real gem is William Flynn. A Massachusetts boy, did some great golf courses, but nowhere near the number that Ross did. One of my favorites that he is responsible for is the Shinnecock Hills that they play today for the Open. He's got these beautiful sinewy fairways that work their way on a golf hole from the tee down to the green, and they're extremely strategic. And we're looking forward to building some of those twists and turns on fairways, as the fairway will move around a bunker or a small mound field as it works its way from the tee to the green. And the greatest compliment would be, in a couple of years, someone plays the course and says, "Oh, that reminds me of this vintage course or that vintage course," because that's really our goal here. Well, I think what really makes those design experiences interesting for me is all too often designers don't try hard enough when they have a site that's limited in acreage. They kind of just get it done. And on each one of the reduced acreage sites I've worked on, each of the courses has had tremendous potential to set up more strategic design, risk and reward, multiple routes of play, and I found them to be a really wide open palette. Wide open sounds odd when you're talking about 70 to 85 acres for a golf course, but we really have an almost start from scratch palette that we can envision golf holes with vintage characteristics in greens and bunkers, or we can try to use some of the vintage template golf holes right within a corridor of play here. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about is people are going to see an entirely new, old golf course. And that's what I think makes me most excited about the job is to rebuild the course to contemporary construction standards, but make it look like it's been here for decades and decades. Besides lacking strategic design and alternate routes of play, some of the holes had really been damaged over the years when the land parcel for the course changed, or abutters outside the course built condominium towers and things like that. A good example of this is the fourth hole. When you stood on the fourth hole, it really just looked like you were playing a condominium golf hole. And we worked really hard to do some shifting so that we could get those condominiums out of being the most significant feature of play on that golf hole. And so the fourth became a par 3, and it's a par 3 that has a double green. And on the fourth green, it's a Redan style green, like the Great Redan in North Berwick, Scotland, and great Redans all over the country that Charles Blair Macdonald and Seth Rayner designed. The 12th hole is being lengthened into a par 5 to get back the stroke that we lost, changing 4 from a par 4 to a par 3. And I think it has really a lot of playing interest. A monster mound on the inside left for the second landing area. Players can try to hit a bit of a blind shot to the green, or they can just lay it out to the right so that they have a clear view of the green on their approach shot. Another hole that's changing dramatically is 16. We're breaking that corridor that's currently the 16th hole into 2 golf holes. A par 3 that's water down the left-hand side all the way tee to green, but the apron on the right-hand side, approach on the right-hand side of the hole, will have a nice kick slope that lets the average players play away from the water and use the land features to draw them towards the green. And then the second replacement hole is a little bit of a shorter par 4, maybe a drivable par 4, that's water all the way from the tee to the green, that's also got some kick features on the right-hand side of the hole. What people are going to want to do out here is kind of read the landscape. There are areas where if you don't hit it 1,000,000 miles in the air and 1,000,000 miles in distance, there are going to be some kick slopes and features out in the fairways at the front of the greens that help direct shots to the desired areas. It's a very unique characteristic on the old golf holes. Now, I don't want to give the rest of the hole short shrift, because even though they don't change locations or change pars, I think some of the changes on the other holes in terms of strategy, in terms of playability, in terms of angles in design are just as significant as the holes I just gone over that have been dramatically changed how they sit on the site. You know, golf course architects are supposed to do their work so that a course remains challenging for the better player, but manageable for the average and less than average player. And some people think that's impossible to achieve, but it's not. If you consider angles in design, multiple routes of play, a safe route of play on a hole along with a risky route of play on a hole, you can make it for all abilities of golfers. And that's a big part of what we're going to do at the Boca Raton. When we've done courses like this, what has surprised golfers most about the course is how different it is, even with holes that play in the same corridor. But they like the aesthetics of the design, the movement of the fairways, the strategy that there's a bailout area. They can hit to the right and take, say, a draw bunker out of play that's on the left-hand side of the golf hole, but still make it to the green. Alistair McKenzie said it best. the best golf holes are the ones you can play with a putter. He meant they were golf holes with alternate routes of play. And like Brookside in Columbus, Ohio, Palm Beach Country Club that we fashioned in this vintage style, people say to me when I see them out on the course, wow, we love our new old golf course. It means it's built to the most contemporary construction standard with the best grasses, but the character of the course, the way you should play it, is very much like a vintage golf course. I guess what I'm most excited about accomplishing at Boca Raton is what I try to accomplish on almost all my projects. I want people to remember that there was a great era of golf course design that was decades and decades before the 1960s. It was in the teens and up to about 1930 when vintage design that was based on the Great Links course holes was in vogue. And the architect really worked to give every hole its own unique character. And the character that they gave it was what we consider to be vintage design. And excuse me for mentioning another course, but we did this at Palm Beach Country Club. And an 82-year-old female member wrote a poem and presented it to the club. And the name of the poem was In Praise of Traditional Design. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for, to have a member recognize that their course was different. It wasn't like the other 13,000 golf courses in America. It was different because it harkened back to the days of vintage architects like Donald Ross, like William Flynn, like Charles Blair Macdonald, like Seth Rayner, and on and on and on. Truly the greats in the history of golf course design.